Hello there. We are live and there's a delay, so you're going to see me adjusting my seat for the first few seconds and kind of getting all that in order. So that's super fun. Anyway, this is it. It's the last week of the first quarter. Also, my camera's like really angled down. There we go. I typically, there we go. That feels better. All right. So yeah, kind of an odd week as it has been recently. Kind of discovered a bunch of stuff at the last minute, and so we end up with about 20 releases today. As I said in the video description, a few memorable releases, a bunch of pretty good and solid ones, but by and large, March has been a month which I feel was not as exciting as January and February, but we'll kind of discuss that as we get into it. I need to find my notes here real fast. And we are, just so I should probably turn that off. Yeah. Just so everyone knows, just so we can go through it, obviously for the, handful of people who are here. Genres today, it's in the description down below, but I'll just read it out here. We're going to go with rock and metal first, then rap and hip hop, and then we're going to get into electronic music, and we're going to end with indie and pop. So yeah, let me go ahead and just put us right into it. So close that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. A grand total of 21. So let's get right to it, I suppose, right? No dilly-dallying, which is what I'm doing right now. So, but oh, there it is. Okay. The first one we have here is the Свидание EP by Скоты, which is like cattle. Honestly, the rock and metal category this week, all EPs, very slim pickings is what I'm going to say. But I had to put this one first, the Свидание EP by Скоты, because I honestly had a hard time this last week finding an album to get into after last week's music on Thursday and Friday. I was just kind of sitting there skipping between tracks. Couldn't find anything that would really catching my attention for whatever reason. And then this was it. This was a nice, fun dose of pop punk ska music, which is going to be a huge turnoff to some people immediately, but give it a shot. It's a little bit of maybe The Offspring or Sum 41 meets They Might Be Giants, or whatever ska group you want to use there. But the lyrics are kind of the aging punk rocker, and they're kind of poking fun at it. So I suppose I should use my mouse here. Let's give it a listen, and we'll go with the title track. There's the ska right there, right off the bat. It's just fun. I needed like something bright and upbeat, kind of energetic. And I haven't heard anything like this so far this year, really.
Дети растут, как первомайские цветы. Брак — это кокон для бабочки в разводе. Ты так устала от домашней суеты. Я заебался после смены на заводе. Может, сегодня не поедем в ресторан? Не будем счет делить, ведь мы с тобой не мелочные. Моя зарплата не дает быть папиком, и ты точно не тарелочница. Жду на свидание. У меня 8 и без опоздания.
All right, and then we'll give the another one. I'm gonna try talking into the mic a little bit closer when the music's playing, because I guess it might be a little hard to hear. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward with the ska-flavored pop punk rock.
Опыт как защитная каска. Плачу стране исправно налоги. Места тусовок залипаю в мемы. Я слишком молод, чтобы купить себе Volvo. Я слишком старый для БДСМ. Есть абонемент в зал, чтобы не ходить туда год. Больше не злюсь на бывшую, у нее пиздатый код. Если ждать дольше 3 минут, отменяю таксу. Слежу за тем, что там у наших, что у англосаксов. На проценты складов взял сертификат в инвитро. Перед покупкой проверяю.
So, yeah, that's basically the long and short. I'm gonna jump back to the camera for just a second. I'm gonna make a slight adjustment here with my microphone because I heard that it's not going so well with the music playing. So we'll give that a shot. But yeah, that's the Свидание EP by Скоты. Just kind of a nice, fun little one. And that was what got me started off this week. Up next, we have The Cat is Dead with the agreссии EP. This is, we got 3 fat little tracks of female-fronted nu metal, which it's not the most refined. It's a bit rough around the edges, but it is a debut EP, so we can't critique it too hard, or we shouldn't maybe too hard. And hopefully the shortcomings of this sound will get worked out in future releases. So we'll give the first track, Ненависть, a listen. Kind of that Evanescence style rumblings. Wake me up! But no. It's gonna go a little bit harder than waking up inside. So pretty standard nu metal sounding fare, right? But the female vocals are, it's always a nice touch in a genre which is heavily dominated by men for obvious reasons. Got the growl going there. So yeah, a real short EP in that same vein. Again, like I said, it's a debut EP, a little rough around the edges, but for a first release, it's respectable. And at 10 minutes long, the price of admission is very, very low, free in fact. Moving on, we're gonna keep in that similar vein. This is ESMIRE. Один, the EP. It says EP version here. I don't really know what that means, as though there's another one somewhere. But yeah, this is the type of alt-rock metal that would have been spinning nonstop on local rock radio stations in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when they wanted to push the envelope, right? Go for something that was a little bit heavier. This is the type of music that... when I was in high school, pimply-faced teen boys with overloaded sound systems that cost more than the beaters they were driving around in. This is what they would have been cruising around, blasting with windows down. Now, I do want to say the second track, Vzmach Krylia, is one where it sounds 100% like Russian alt-rock and alt-metal from that same time period, aside from the lyrics. But it's just the way that the singing is done on the second track. Well, I'm going to skip over that track in particular. I mean, I'll jump to it for a second so you can maybe understand what I'm talking about. But by and large, it's got a pretty familiar vibe. Three Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin. I can't remember all of the ridiculous names groups like that had, but you know this sound. artwork. Actually, the singing here is kind of that Russian style, I would say, in the alt metal category. It's the type of music that guys who don't listen to metal will put on in the gym to lift weights and feel hardcore to. So, not to hate on it. I mean, like, it's fine. It's just it's one of those niche sounds that, like, is trying to appeal to a wide audience. Not bad. I kind of like it though. Like, let's be real. But this singing is on the Russian style, 100%. So yeah, that is the ESMIRE Уже не один EP. For your weekly dose of alt metal, now that you can't get it on The Rock 106.5 or whatever the hell it is in your neck of the woods. So, up next we have a group which I have to say for the first quarter, hands down wins award for most pretentious band name. The band is tоматное гозе с привкусом перца халапеньо, or a tomato goze with a dash or with a hint of jalapeno pepper. I'm assuming that's what they were drinking when they came up with the band name. Also, the EP here, their debut EP, is без названия, or untitled. So again, really kind of just going with it. But naming things aside, they are labeled as post-hardcore here too. I think this is more emo post-punk, which is kind of an interesting combination. It's not post-hardcore, it's emo post-punk is kind of what I say, is how it feels to me. It's as broken sounding, the emo, as it is angry, kind of. But yeah, anyway, that said, it is a nice debut, and hopefully the group will continue to develop this sound a little bit, because it is an interesting one. So let's just jump into it. This is про тех, кто ушел. Calms down, get the more emo sound here. Or I guess, yeah, this is definitely more though, like Midwest emo.
Как можно принять ту пустоту, которую ты решил нам оставить? Я не услышу ответ от тебя, но принять ее я постараюсь.
And the last of the 4 tracks, Раньше было лучше.
лет. Впереди меня ждет неизвестность, избежать ее возможности нет.
Jumping ahead. So a relatively short, pleasant little. It's more emo than it is post-punk, but maybe it's on Осеннее обострение, where the post-punk is. I don't remember exactly where it is. 2 and 4 were the tracks that stood out to me the most, but I am going to quickly throw the camera back off. I'm going to play around with the sound just a tidge bit more and lower the music volume just a bit because, yeah. All right. So let me go ahead and we'll go back. All right. So yeah, we're good, right? Yeah. Okay. There's the infinity cam. Yeah. The final one in the rock and metal category is Кутульрное Наследие. Причин, пойти за тобой is the EP. Now, I remember running into this group when they had an EP that they released last year. I don't remember what it was. It was basically dance rock meets post-punk. While it wasn't bad, it wasn't either really particularly memorable or well put together. Because dance rock and post-punk, it's not that they can't work together. It's just, I feel like it's probably difficult to pull off. So this release here, they've backed away from the dance rock in favor of it's going to sound weird, more melancholy 80s soft rock sound. A lot of saxophone, which in connection with the post-punk thing makes a lot more sense. The singing has a lot more languor and ennui baked into it, and it makes the whole experience a lot more musically logical. And it's definitely an EP that I spun a few times. It has a nice vibe to it. Kind of a depressive little vibe, but still a vibe. Yeah, they just start you right off with the saxophone.
Осень пахнет Курским вокзалом, сквозь потный контроль спускаюсь в метро, нервно куря свой Marlboro Gold. Осень пахнет сарказмом, умываюсь дождем под грохот колес поездов.
So again, the 80s soft rock and the post-punk. Post-punk's not super obvious on this track necessarily, but we might hear it here on, say, Sni. It feels like they might be going for the Brian Ferry sound a little bit as well, too. Or maybe The Cure. But the use of the saxophone is... It's a really nice touch. It works very well here.
Волшебный океан манит как любовь, но сильнее ветра. Пепел на руках, с тяжестью в губах. Сны бывают слишком верны. Для чего мы смотрим в темноту? Сквозь туман ветров лица.
And Rane. This is the post-punk. There it is. no saxophone. So yeah, that is the group Кутульрное Наследие, and the EP is P.R.E.S, Причин, пойти за тобой. But yeah, that's it. 5 EPs in the rock and metal category, and again, all good. I enjoy listening to all of them, and I would listen to all of them again, but none of them, I can just be completely honest, are anywhere close to making the cut for like top picks of the first quarter. They're good. They're worth a listen, but they're not necessarily things that, for me at any rate, I'm going to want to come back to in, say, a year or two's time. But moving on to rap and hip-hop, that is the next genre, and we're going to open with Молодой Владимир, and this is Молодые Россияне. Молодые Россияне. I know I should be able to pronounce all that correctly, but whatever, just run with it. So Молодой Владимир is probably one of the more scandalous and I would say simultaneously interesting characters in the Russian rap scene in recent years, because he's 13 years old, and 2 years ago when he was 11 or 12, he released a bunch of songs that were like, it was drugs and sex and all this stuff, and it had so many people here clutching their pearls, which is hilarious because it's, I mean, I get it, it's the type of language and whatnot that you wouldn't expect out of a young person, but I mean, it's also not super surprising in a lot of situations. And back in 2023, they blocked his music on streaming services. It just like was straight up not available. So yeah, he's come back now in 2025. He's a little bit older. He has things maybe a little bit better figured out. All I gotta say is, my man loves Waka Flocka Flame, and I'm all there for it, right? The production, the flow, the lyrics, even the kind of like barking style vocals occasionally. It's all there in this music. Judging it objectively, ignoring the noise around his past releases, if we just look at this as a piece of art on its own merit, and even ignoring his age, Молодой Vladimir has, I would say, got a lot of talent and a lot of vision. Again, taking his age into consideration here, that makes it even more impressive. And yeah, I hope we're going to see more from him. I hope he continues to kind of develop this sound. So I probably should hit play on City.
It's good, you know that. They talk crazy. They talk crazy.
Art in the paint. Waka. It's going really hard for the Waka sound, if you are familiar with it. That kind of constant shouting. And the production is trying to emulate the Lex Luger sound. So, I mean, that's how it seems to me at any rate. So yeah, 7 tracks, but you can see basically they're all under 2 minutes long. So again, it's about a 10-minute EP, I guess technically. Very short album, whatever you want to call it. Молодые, Россияне by Молодой Vladimir, or Young Vladimir, if you will. So moving along, we have P.R.E.S. by P.R.E.S. So I hadn't really thought about it, but after listening to this, I realized that there was a bright, upbeat sound to mainstream rap in the early 2000s. 50 Cent's P.I.M.P., Nelly's Hot in here, Ludacris, basically all of his music, Missy Elliott, anything produced by the Neptunes, even Snoop Dogg's Drop It Like It's Hot. Now, I'm not going to dissect that sound here. It's if you recognize those artists and you were listening to that type of music in the early 2000s, then you know what that sound is. Like I said, I hadn't really given it much thought, but it's a sound that in some ways dates that music immediately. Since the early 2000s, that sound has largely disappeared. It's gotten either more abstract and experimental, more sound cloudy, or it's gone harder, like the Молодой Vladimir sound we just saw, the Lex Lugers, the drill type rap music. But it feels like it's a sound that's maybe ready. It's a period of music that's perhaps ripe for mining at this point in time. And P.R.E.S. here is all about it. On the opening track, there are hints of Biggie Smalls with Hypnotize. There's moments that make you feel hypnotized. We have a number of tracks with the female guest vocals that have the exact same vibe as how female rappers used to be kind of highlighted, you know, the Aaliyahs and the Little Kims of the 90s and the 2000s. P.R.E.S. here even does a little bit of rapping. P.R.E.S. just to sort of is the alter ego of I forget what his name is. It's a producer here in Russia. So this is like his first like solo album, I guess is what you can say. He even has you can see a few songs here where he does some rapping in English also. And you know, the English verses are not the best, to be fair, but again, it's not his native language. And if you can look past some of the awkwardness in the English rapping, then honestly, this is an album that will make you feel like you've been transported about 25 years into the past. So let's give this a listen. Mighty Bounce. Like an old Timbaland beat.
Я встретил бэби в весте, малышка очень насти. Я делал это везде, теперь мы точно вместе. Я выбираю хоу, как и не манимал. Эй, бэби, дай мне то. Она сказала go. Словил малышку в клубе, она красива в кубе.
All of the little do-do-do-do-do-do.
Она меня полюбит.
You don't hear that anymore in rap music, but it was everywhere in the early 2000s. Like those weird little details that got thrown in. It was like this maximalist version of beat production, which I guess if I were to analyze that, it probably has to do with the fact that the early 2000s, even with 9/11 and all that came after it, was a period of excess in American culture. So the idea that that would be reflected in the beat production where all of these little details got sort of sprinkled in, it kind of makes a lot more sense. But anyway, let's keep going. This is the one that feels a bit like Hypnotize.
Big P.R.E.S. outrun the block. Make big cash, но не скажем как. Hey, you know I'm rich as fuck. That's for sure, get real, bro. Новые малышки в телеграм-канале. У меня есть бэби, но они не знали.
Even the cover art looks like it's from about 25 years ago.
Не считаю налик. Улики танцуют, это мистика.
which I love. That's fantastic. And then the female vocals, just to, again, give you one more throwback to those years. Drop it like it's hot. Alright, let me find the... Here it is. So it almost feels like it could be satire if it wasn't. It feels like a love letter to that era of rap and hip hop, and I'm positive that's what it is. It's too serious. It's an attempt at replicating our too on the nose, but also it's literally the boom boom boom, almost 1-to-1 from Drop It Like It's Hot. You don't just do that unintentionally, but at the same time, it's not a direct ripoff. So this, I'm almost positive, is a love letter to that period. And like I said, it's a sound that you recognize immediately if you were there and you listened to it back then, but you don't really think about very much anymore. So yeah, 14 tracks of that. This is P.R.E.S. by P.R.E.S. And I honestly, I thought this was the top pick, but holy crap. VELIAL squad or VELIAL squad. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it. And VELIAL God damn it. VELIALOGIYA is the album here. So while this group isn't exactly underground at this point in time, this is a duo out of Tula who love wearing baklavas. They have been consistently releasing albums and EPs for the last decade, right? At least one per year. Lots of really smart, pretty clever lyrics in that. A lot of overtures in the text to horror films and just films in general. They mention John Wick and Harry Potter on this album as well. Listening to this, it reminded me, in the world of American hip-hop, reminded me a lot of Cunnin' Linguists and the Earth Gang, especially the early Earth Gang releases, with the kind of playfulness of everything. But it's just like a really well-produced album and really kind of fun. It goes kind of hard too, but it's definitely, it's also supposed to look like a Russian textbook. It's got the little So that's Balaclava. We're going to jump to Король Металла, which I believe was actually the first or one of the first singles off of this album. And, probably for pretty good reason. it just has a very underground sound. Like if this was, I don't know, out of the States, like Cunningham was just right, somewhere out of Kentucky or something that you would not expect. And we'll go with Темный рыцарь.
Сколько это будет длиться, я не знаю, но я жду. Я как темный рыцарь, люблю эту темноту. Знаю, она меня не ждет, не лезь, она тебя сожрет. Но как родной на этом звуке, я знал это наперед. Как родной на этом звуке, я люблю все ретро. Люблю побыть один, лежу на глубине 6 метров. Давно не жду ничьих респектов, ни рубля, ни цента. Жду, как те люди полнеют, хоть и мол процентов. Знаешь, мои цифры те же, звания роуминг people 6. Может, продал свою душу, при себе оставил честь. Со мной моя нечисть, и они хотели тебя съесть. Даже в них есть человечность, ее очень мало здесь. Я дома с Мизери, меня выбрал бы Слизерин. И так пусто внутри, хотел бы быть из тьмы, вызволен. Звук грязь не вылизан, полю так пристально, но издали, как ими управляют только числа, так немыслимо. Я с болотом не болтаю, Таня.
So yeah, that is VELIAL. I honestly do not know how they want this pronounced. VELIAL Squad maybe. But yeah, the album is VELIALOGIYA. A lot easier that time around. And yeah, this is definitely the top rap hip hop pick of the week. Although I have to say, like PRES before it, both of these albums here, the last two, I would say, are ones that I am actually thinking about for the sort of quarter in some form or another. But moving on to electronic music, we are going to blast through. We got a lot of electronic music and a lot of pop and indie. But we have a lot of EPs here. So the first one up is the Safe Block EP, and do not expect me to pronounce this name, qilotrplsx. Yeah, whatever, right? qilotrplsx. Sure, whatever. It's just hard and heavy UK style techno. It's got the brooding atmosphere, slamming bass beats. There's sort of jungle pitter-patters in the background. It's not any one specific genre from the UK. It's more of an amalgamation of the UK's techno scene in one tight little EP produced here in Russia. So we're going off the first track. There's that bass. There are the pitter patters. Not right now, but they're there. Just listen. And we'll go with the title track here, Safe Block, for another taste. bass is pretty thick throughout. So yeah, it's got that really heavy UK, maybe even maybe leans into the garage a little bit. I don't know. It's very UK. It's 4 tracks. It's a nice little EP. It's a safe block EP by qilotrplsx. Yeah, qilotrplsx. It's in the description. It is the first in the electronic section. So if it sounds good, and it is, it's 4 tracks long. It's something you can put on and listen to relatively quickly if you're in the mood for something really heavy on the low end. All right, up next we have Bvoice with, thank God, an easy to pronounce name. Electric Feel is the EP here. This is great. This is a super fun little EP. It's 4 synth-focused house dance tracks, just vibes. Very, very hard. The label described it as something similar to Fortet over mono, called it minimal house and IDM. That's all good and well. Basically, there's a lot of different sounds on these 4 tracks, a lot of sounds, a lot of rhythms, and they all kind of come together to make this instrumental electronic music that is it's brimming with emotion. You can just feel it coming out of the tracks. So let me just get you into it. So something that could almost be Herbie Hancock, I guess. Rocket. I'm just gonna jump ahead because it builds over time, so let's just kind of jump into it. Jumped into a bit of a bridge section, I suppose. So, oops. But you can see, right, there's a lot of different ideas musically. They're all weaving together. But it's not heavy. Even though there are, 3-4 ideas musically that you can separate here. So, and then, yeah, one more sample. Into it again. A little bit further. Yeah, I love the synth line right here. I guess we're talking like the emotiveness of it. So yeah, that's the Electric Feel EP by Bvoice. Just 4 tracks, but I mean they're lengthy little boys right there. You got over 20 minutes here. This is an EP, but it feels closer. If they would have been 1 or maybe even 2 extra tracks, it would have been a full-on LP. As it is, though, It's the type of thing that you can put on and 20 minutes will just blow right by. It's pure enjoyment. So, and it's a nice little thing here. Kind of feels good in the early days of spring. So, moving on to Volume 8, we have the Facets EP. Although they label it a single, but you know what? To hell with it. It is an EP. Because I feel like singles, this is my whole take on it. A single to me is when there's one strong track and then another one or two kind of throwaway tracks on top of it. Last week I mentioned Второй K, and even though they only had 3 tracks that totaled about 5 minutes together, they all worked together and they all felt good. Like there wasn't anything extra there. In fact, there wasn't enough. It felt like you wanted more. And so yeah, if there's ever a single where it's only 3 tracks long, but holy God, holy hell, all of those tracks feel like super well produced and highlights in their own regard, then that in my mind is an EP. That's how I break it down. Anyway, this is hyper energetic dance techno. It's got lots of samples in it, samples galore, and it feels like a live set from maybe Girl Talk or A-Track. If that doesn't mean anything to you, then let's just listen. So in comparison to the Bvoice release, also a lot of stuff going on here. But here, everything's like fighting for your attention, whereas there it was very organically kind of mixing together. It's this level of intensity for the whole thing. So yeah, just 3 tracks, all in that vein. I don't know exactly what that type of techno is called. It reminds me of what was maybe the big sound. Maybe I'm missing a few years in there, but in my memory, it's the big sound that existed before dubstep exploded onto the scene. So, but yeah, that is the Facets EP by Volume 8. Just 10 minutes of ADHD in the best way possible. All right, so now we have the 3 EP, I'm assuming is how I pronounce it, or the 3, we'll go with it, by 1783. So here we've got the dark, heavy bass and break beats. It's the industrial cyberpunk vibe for people who aren't quite ready for the warm and sunny springtime disposition type of music. So this is going to be a little bit heavier in the gloomy sort of sense. yeah, heavier in an industrial dark wave sort of sound. Check out Electra as well. Jump into it. Fast distortion. This is where I feel cyberpunk. I mentioned Drexia, the sort of Detroit techno sound, quite a bit when talking about electronic music, but you can hear it here a little bit as well. So yeah, that's the 3 EP by 1783 for anybody who's looking for a little bit of a darker, heavier vibe. All right. Getting into the home stretch here for electronic music, we have the CD Paranoia. This is it's connected to Linux. I don't remember exactly what the reference is. It's connected to some old music program on Linux. Ronin. This is a collection of tracks from a producer out of Yekaterinburg. Now, the tracks were all recorded between the span of 2017 and 2023, and it's kind of interesting. The tracks, while not split evenly on the release, basically fall into one of two categories. You have ones that were made on with these warm, like the pads kind of has the warm pad type sound, a lot of atmospheric sounds, and there's a lot of space in those tracks, down tempo you might even call them. But then the other part of the album is more densely layered. There's a lot more going on. Those were put together in Ableton. So some were composed on the computer, some were composed with like the pad, making them more in the analog space, I guess we can say. So it's a release that's at times ambient, but rhythmic and abstract. It's all of those things. It's a little bit like Aphex Twin, maybe you could call it, but just less extreme in that regard. I'll just throw a few tracks on and you could get the idea. So this is that warm, spacious, atmospheric sound. You got the pad, right? A little hypnotic, you can just get lost in it. Check out Seraphim. Again, that warm, spacious, almost certainly put together with the pads. Like I said, it's abstract, but rhythmic. So the last two tracks have had that type of vibe, and let's jump into Copy of Copy of Copy, which I'm pretty sure was composed on a computer. I might be wrong. Ambient, we got the field recordings. Yeah, this one even has a bit of a lo-fi hip-hop beat to it. this wasn't the track that I wanted exactly, but it works. Yeah, this wasn't quite it, but maybe the title track. Yeah, this is the one. I don't know why the copy of a copy, but whatever. So that's the CD Paranoia album by Ronan. It is, honestly, it is one of those albums that is best either with headphones or if you're going to listen to it over speakers, then, you know, when you're able to kind of focus in on it. Because it's one of those where it's very easy to get lost into it. It does have the IDM feel to it as well. But moving on, we have Delenia Kletek by Pavel Kresling. This is, honestly, as is most often the case with electronic releases, it is a mishmash of styles. We've got a little bit of jungle, a little bit of bass, a little bit of glitch. But again, they all kind of fall into the greater ideals of IDM music, the kind of thought-provoking subgenre of dance music. This is another one of those albums that is nice with just headphones or time to sit and listen to it. It doesn't ask you to move around or doesn't maybe want you to move around as much, but you could. On this one, feels got a lot of kind of the drum and bass jungle energy. But we jump to the second half. Things shift direction. And then it throws everything together at the end. Here's a vocal line just ghosted into the track. It definitely has more energy than the CD Paranoia. But it's still not quite dance, right? It's a little bit more heady in terms of what it's doing. And I have to mention the fact that there is a remix of Третье сентября by Shufutinsky, which is kind of a meme, the 3rd of September, the meme song here in Russia. So, kind of have to point that out. I was not expecting it, I'll put it like that. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has remixed Shufutinsky before or 3 сентября, but now it's been done at the very least. So yeah, honestly, Деление клеток feels a bit more like what we might think of as a traditional electronic techno release by Pavel Kresling here. But it's still a good release. I enjoyed it. I came back to it more than once. So, all right, and then the final album here in the electronic family, the electronic category, we have The Seasons by ASHFIVE. ASHFIVE, when I actually did do a video about releases last year, about April, I'm pretty sure I talked about his release then, Nobody From Nowhere. I loved it. Great release. This album is softer than that release. It's brighter. There's more. It's got more of a synthy sound. The season tracks, I would say, right? Winter, spring, summer, autumn. They attempt to elicit motion. They're more atmospheric. And the more normally titled ones about you sometimes thinking and watching. These are the ones that are going for an IDM dance style vibe. Yeah. Honestly, it dropped right as winter was shifting into spring, which is appropriate because the whole idea of this album is it focuses on the changes and the cyclical nature of nature and life as a whole. So I'll start us out with one of the more atmospheric tracks, the spring one. So again, attempting to elicit emotion, right? Trying to call forth something, perhaps the optimism of spring. There's really never a beat on these tracks. But then you get to the next track, and the idea carries over. And now we have the beat. We've got the dance energy. It's kind of like that on the rest of them too, right? So yeah, that's the Seasons by ASHFIVE. just a really nice album. It flows very well, has the atmospheric, melodic, I suppose you could say, even though this is technically instrumental. You could hear there are vocal tracks on those other ones, so you have the sort of instrumental, atmospheric seasons, and those try to produce an atmosphere which then turn into a more dance-oriented or a more upbeat of some form. Well, again, dance-style track, which then transform into... It's this ebb and flow of a short album. And like I said, ASHFIVE, I really liked his output last year, and I'm happy to see that it hasn't let up. Just one last thing to say here. So yeah, The Season's my top pick for electronic music this last week. Actually, a lot of stuff this week came from the System 108. We can see Bvoice here. qilotrplsx from a few weeks ago. Ritual Dance we've talked about. We've actually talked about quite a few of these releases. There's actually more as well. But System 108 is one of the bigger electronic labels here in Moscow, in Russia. And yeah, I don't know if ASHFIVE was on it last year, but it's good to see he got picked up with it. He's going to have, I guess, the support from that. So, yep. And yeah, that brings us to pop and indie. So we have 6 releases here. First 3, pretty straightforward, but so let's just get right into it. We have the Vesna, literally the spring EP by Seryabkina. I think that's how you say her name. Olga. Yeah, Christ in a cracker. Olga Seryabkina. So it's just the most updated recent version. She's famous for being in kind of an all Cerebro was the pop group here in Russia, and she kind of spun off and started doing her own thing, right? She has done a number of, right? She had a career as she's not the Beyonce, right? But she it's that sort of trajectory where she kind of was the standout of a what you could call a girl group, I suppose, and then she spun off and started doing her own stuff. And yeah, this is just the updated sound of Russian popsa, hyper-produced, super saccharine, just the musical equivalent of those frosted cookies that you see in the bakery window. You know it's nothing more than sugar and concentrated sweetness in all of its multitude of possible forms, but you still buy it because you want it, and you're going to enjoy it anyway, even though you know it's kind of silly and empty and pointless. And it's kind of like this with the music. It's just fun. Horrible cover, not gonna lie, like, but whatever. Yeah, oh, I love the bass line here. I mean, yeah, okay. Verse, we want the chorus. That bass line. Let's get it back here again. Boom, 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 boom. It almost feels a little bit like that really nasty bass line from Pony. I cannot remember who did Pony. And then this weird pseudo saxophone. So, yeah. It's so dumb and empty, but holy crap, if it isn't fun. And you know what? It's springtime. This is the type of music we expect now, right? Something which you don't really want to think about. You just want to enjoy it. So yeah, that is the Vesna Spring. That's the Vesna EP by Olga Seryabkina. Or I guess you can just search for Seryabkina and you would find it that way. So kind of dumb, 100% fun though, super enjoyable. And I do not know why the third track is the one with the lightning bolt. The one's like, oh, this is the big hit, because it's fine, but Jesus Christ, the first and last tracks are the ones. That's where it's at, let's be real. All right, up next, we have a group with two names, and I really don't know why they're doing it this way. It's kind of the same group, but they released it under both of the names. Dom Prekrasnik Austov и Dom Prestarelik Autistov. I'm not going to bother translating that. It's fine. It's the House of Aged Autists is what it is in English, the second one. But it's not important. The VELIAL EP here. This is a group. They haven't released anything in over 5 years. It's kind of the 1-2 punch of COVID and then the government invading the neighboring country, launching a full-scale war. Did a lot to the Russian music community. And we've been seeing these types of long pauses from a lot of groups. So I imagine that this year into next year, right, this year for sure, probably, a lot of people who have been silent, they're going to be coming back. This is just a nice short little dose of psych indie rock. I'd say it's somewhere between Animal Collective and garage rock. The lyrics, though, are pretty pissed off. A lot of barely contained rage in the lyrics, but let's just jump into it. Also, fun artwork, right?
Да, мы в курсе происходящего, опасения прошлого, сейчас настоящее. Да, 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 да. Да, мы в ужасе, как полагается. Да, мы свидетели этого пиздеца. Кому это нравится? Кому это нравится? Какая разница? Полная задница. Полная задница. Полная задница. Но самое сочное.
And we get the second track. Bit of a listen. I'm going to jump into it. Earlier Animal Collective, to be sure. Although there is a bit of the Merryweather post-Pavilion era. So yeah, I don't know. I was really digging this EP. I would love to get a full length of something like this. Like I said, it is a throwback to Animal Collective. Actually, of various eras of Animal Collective, but there is a bit more of a garage rock edge to it, which I do like. So that's the VELIAL EP by, I'm just going to go with their most common name, Dom Prestarelik Autistov. So, all right. Next up, we have the album Blur, which is a joint release by Yevtela and Salova, I believe. So Yevtela actually released an album last year. I was pretty mixed about. I'll show you what it was. It's Astalnaya. I was kind of mixed on that one last year. What I had written down was some songs are quite good, pop with indie elements. It's just a healthy dose of experimental aspects and instruments, which detract from the overall product. It might be annoying for some. That was what I thought about that album. It's kind of like, it was good, but it had some problems. Here, though, together with Solova on vocals, the sound, it's much more focused, but it's focused in a different direction. It gives us a throwback to the darker synth rock, light industrial groups of the 80s and early 90s, especially what was a sound, the sound that was more common here in Russia. Although I definitely, as somebody who loves Nine Inch Nails, there were a few tracks on here where I felt pretty Hate Machine vibes, which is cool. I love that. It's a sound, honestly, kind of like the early 2000s rap sound, mainstream rap sound. This is also a sound that you don't see revisited very often, so it's nice to hear it revived here. So let's just jump into it. Even the image has that like old 80s video vibe. And let's be real, like this shirt that he's wearing. Jumping down. Even the guitar tones, right? This, I would say, has more of that old Russian sound from this era. And then, yeah. This is definitely has more of a modern feel, though, let's be real. But it's okay. Feels like it could be a remix of Where Is My Mind? You get the idea. It's a whole album of that sound. Some of the tracks are a little bit more poppy. I suppose this one, what might have been. This is very much like the Russian sound from that time period. More so than what would have been common in the States. Anyway, yeah, that's Blur by Yevtela and Solova. I don't know Russian. There's always a stress mark, and if you don't know where it goes, then God help you. So I guess it's kind of like English in that regard. If you don't know how to pronounce the word, you might be kind of just boned in that sense. Anyway, moving along. Final three here, and all of these are really good. Actually, this one I actually wanted to put into last week's video or last week's stream. I just didn't actually sit down and type out my thoughts prior to it. So, but this is good. This is «Что я понял к этому дню» by «Это электробус», or «What I have understood to this day» by «This is an electrobus». Okay, so last summer, I heard this group for the first time. They released a full-length album last summer. And what I wrote with regards to that album is this. 2024 saw Welsh indie group Los Campesinos explode back onto the scene with a newly critically acclaimed album, but some of us never forgot their first LP-EP combo from nearly 15 years ago. It would seem Electrobus also didn't forget this. This is indie with ironic, postmodern lyrics and song titles and music that feels at times ripped from Midwest emo. Just like with Los Campesinos, things never feel depressive or helpless, just confused and ready to unleash that corresponding anger at the universe. All of that stands true with this newest release. Though I'd say that in terms of sound, there is some of the car seat headrest indie rock added to the formula here. And there's also a few errant electronics that wander in from time to time on the tracks. It's a very good indie release. I'm just gonna let it speak for itself. Just that classic indie rock guitar sound. This is, especially this first track here, reminded me a lot of the car seat headrest, the earlier releases by that group. But we'll jump ahead. Listening to this one more time now and really thinking about it, I feel like the sound here is definitely much more car seat headrest than Los Campesinos. Their what was the release that they had last year? Маленькие радости. This was much more Los Campesinos, but great album. Technically, probably an EP, but whatever. I'm going to call it an album because it feels like an album. It feels like a short album, but it's just very good. I've listened to this last week and this week multiple times, and it's just a very, very solid indie release by a group that, like I said, last year, and I mean, if you go and look at their catalog too, you can see that they have, I guess last year was their second album. Or no, actually, oh crap, last year was their first full length. My bad, I did not know that. I guess they had an EP prior to that, so regardless, for not a new group or whatever, they know what they're doing. The sound is good. It's just very good. It's what I call indie, right? When I think of indie music, quote unquote indie music, it's this type of sound that comes to mind, right? So anyway, the album is Что я понял к этому дню by Это электробус. And now we're to the final two, and I honestly did not know what to do with the final two here. Both of these are standout albums. These are both really big ones. This one right here is probably the bigger release of the two. It's hard to say. It's honestly hard to say. But this is АИГЕЛ. The album is Killer Quiz. This is an electronic duo. Most of the music is sung in the Tatar language. The duo relocated to Germany at the start of the war, but that we'll come back to that idea in a second. So they gained massive popularity end of 2022, early 2023. I remember a few years back when their song VELIAL, it was used as the main track for became a breakout show, Slovo Patsana. I actually talked about this last year when I made a music about Russian singles, right? P.R.E.S was the main song from that show, and it exploded. It was just huge. It's a very good song. Don't get me wrong either. People who are coming to this album for a repeat of P.R.E.S might be a bit disappointed at first. Honestly, the opening track, the title track, might come kind of there with that dark electro sound. But in general, the dark electro sound with the light melodic vocals as a counterweight that offer enough hooks to kind of keep you coming back again and again, pulling you deeper and deeper in with each listen, that's all here. So, and I think that's the deal here. The first time you listen to this, if you're expecting P.R.E.S, you're not going to get it. But when you come back to it that second time, if you come in with no expectations, then hey, you're fine. You come back to it a second time, and your mind is cleared of those expectations, those preconceived notions of what you are going to get. And when you come in with that mindset, you're going to get something honestly good. The vibe here is more of a dance experience. It's less atmospheric, but honestly, that could be the German music scene wearing off on the artists, right? They've been in Germany for a number of years now, and so what is happening there musically is something that they are going to be a bit more attuned to. And it's also worth pointing out that they do have a track in German on this album and a one in English as well too. And the 8th track is called Assimilation. So I feel like the final stretch of the album is an interesting one given the context of the group, of the duo, right? They left Russia. They relocated to Russia or to Germany at the start of the war. And if you look at the album artwork, we have the home button and the delete button, which I feel like is a bit of a wink, if you will, a wink and a nudge. So it does feel like maybe Russia has lost another, what would have been a bit of a talented duo in terms of music. And the fact that we have a track called Assimilation and then a song in German and one in English is maybe a nod to the fact that, well, here in Russia, we probably shouldn't expect them back anytime soon. But enough of that. Let's get into the music.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Min killer qas, gözüm boz, sözüm toz, ne bir Холодымның қоныны шәй сіріп біткен ішінек шулай имансыз танцполға шығып біттім кішінен қорқып
Alright, let's just jump around here. There is a bit of the atmospheric vocals in here. And yeah, I have no idea what is being sung about because it's Tatar. It's the language spoken in Tatarstan, Kazan, the main city there. So, even I'm just going musically on this one. Because, like, I don't know what that means. And then the German tracks actually. I mean, here you could, if you don't speak German, you can maybe figure out some lyrics or just use a translator. Pretty straightforward, but to hell with it. And one last track here. Got a bit more of the classic АИГЕЛ sound. So yeah, АИГЕЛ, Killer Quiz, or Killer Kiz, is the album, a group from originally Tatarstan, Kazan, that area, relocated to Germany, and all that comes with that. So yeah, good album, really good stuff. It is worth re-listening and just enjoying from a music point of view, but I gotta go with the final choice here as kind of the top pick of the week. Ангели и не очень by Mishel. Now, this pop band's last album was a breakthrough. They had a cover of a Soviet pop, or no, it was a pop song by a Russian group from the early 2000s, and it shot them to the top of the charts. I think it was used in a movie soundtrack, so that might have helped. I don't remember exactly. Here, there really aren't any covers this time around. Yeah. What am I going with? Yeah, so what I have is, like, honestly, this might be the perfect album to close out the first quarter of the year with the vernal equinox passed not that long ago. We got the days lengthening faster and faster. Sense that something good, even in maybe the geopolitical sense here in Russia, is on everyone's mind. It might be right around the corner. But even that, it might be a bit deformed, like our lamb in the cover art. And then obviously the symbolism of the lamb here in like a lion out like a lamb. I don't know. A lot of fun stuff going on here. The music calls to mind, I would say 80s pop most frequently, but here in 2025, it's not really a huge surprise. Tracks have a bit of the electro-funk sound from the early 2010s as well. We've got 15 tracks, but a third of them are these son interludes, right? Anywhere we see son. They break them into acts. So we have basically 10 songs broken into different acts, although those acts don't really have any overarching idea or tone. Generally speaking, just a very upbeat and warm album, although there is a chill streak and a dash of melancholy, a bit like the lingering touch of winter here at the end of March, or early April, I should say. So let's just get into it.
Теперь так больно на тебя смотреть, а расставание маленькая смерть. Стоим у разных берегов на растерзание всех ветров, и в жалком запахе духов клюва. Не говори мне ничего.
Very upbeat, right? I mean, it's not much. It's the type of music you expect to come out in the springtime, right? Now, to be fair, there are some slower tracks, I should say, or less upbeat tracks, but I mean, out of the 10, this is the third. I'm going to show you one more. They've all got kind of a, you know, happy, good time vibe. And that's great. I'm all for it. So yeah, album Ангелы и не очень by Mishel. top pick of the week, honestly. And, you know, honestly, in the pop and indie category, it very well might make its way into the final discussion for top picks overall. So let me go ahead and jump back to the camera right there. All right. Yeah, it's been long, and I feel like I've moved over, and also that the stream froze a little bit. I cannot tell. I hope it did not. Anyway, we're gonna keep going. Yeah, long story short. What? Hold on. Is everything going all right with the stream? Got a minute 42. It says I've been okay. Whatever. Anyway, moving along. I guess what I want to say is, yeah, there were actually honestly other albums which I had listened to and which again I did not have the notes for, which tells you that they probably were not top priority. Maybe next week we'll see. We'll see how many albums we get here in the first week of April. Since I don't have a backlog for April, I might go back and throw some of those in for next week. But if they didn't really make the cut this week, then realistically, they're not going to make the cut for the first quarter. So, yeah. But yeah, it's been an interesting first 3 months into the year. Definitely have been some trends I've noticed. A lot more metal in the first month and a half, I would say. And then as spring got closer, metal started to disappear in favor of indie and pop music, even electronic to some degree. It'll be interesting to see if that continues to be the case and if metal emerges dominant in the second half of the year as daylight hours get shorter and shorter. We'll have to see. Oh yeah, never mind. Okay, so everything's going wrong with the stream. Just was checking there. But yeah, that's about it. It has been probably much longer than I anticipated it was going to be, but then again, 21 albums takes a while to get through them. So I suppose, yeah, I'll be back on Sunday to do the news. I think I'm going to be able to do it about an hour this week, although I haven't really looked at the news today, so maybe something crazy has happened. We'll see. But so far, it's been a pretty quiet week here. And then next week, I'll be back as normal on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Moscow time to do the music. Although I think the next week or two, I'm going to try to be focusing more on major releases here. And I'm going to be ignoring a lot more of the smaller stuff in favor of focusing in on getting everything put together for the first quarter review. So, yeah, that's next week for music. On Sunday, like I said, I'll be back here at 9 p.m. Moscow time to do the news. And I don't know. I've got text and stuff, and I was out this last weekend filming for another video, but honestly, I'm probably just going to throw together another vlog first and use that as a stopgap measure. It has been really busy here the last week, and I don't really know why. It's just kind of very chaotic, but we'll see. In a month, we have the May holidays when basically everything grinds to a standstill, at which point in time I'll have time to do all the stuff I was meaning to do. So it won't really be very restful, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I got to get off the stream. It's already late enough. I've already been going long enough. Everyone have a good afternoon, have a good evening, whatever time of the day it happens to be. And I will see you when I see you. All right?